Ladies and gentlemen, here we are on the coast of California. I bring you here to start this video out just so that we can talk a little bit about Gran Turismo 7 just added Grand Valley back in. So where does this right here correlate with Gran Turismo 7? Right on the other side of these houses, just this side of the hill, that's Highway 1. This is the north end of Highway 1. All of that scenery right there, everything down towards Big Sur, it all looks like this. Grand Valley has now been renamed Grand Valley Highway 1. Now, it was already on the coast. Now, it's been explained that it's on the coast of California. This ocean, this scenery right here, can be seen on Gran Turismo 7. We're not just talking about GT7. We're talking about GT7 having VR now. VR has now made the driving experience so damn realistic. This is what you see that you're looking at when you come through the back bridge on Gran Turismo's Grand Valley Highway 1. Let's get into it. This is like one of my perspectives. Let me talk about some real specific stuff as far as what you get with the experience of VR. Let me show you a couple of things that's really cool about the Gran Turismo platform with VR. So let's jump into it right now.
From the moment that you throw that VR headset on, you notice that you're in a whole new world. This is the world that your imagination tapped into. This is the world that you figured that Gran Turismo would be. This is the world that you always bought Gran Turismo to emulate. This is what it's all about. The quality of the VR headset, the things that you get to see in the VR headset, the clarity. A lot of people saying that there's so much more that you see in the headset than what's being shown. This is true, but people do not detail the value that the quality that you get. I, for one, was on the fence. I didn't feel like purchasing this VR headset because the VR1 was good, but it did not convince me to purchase this headset. Once I got this headset and put it on my eyes to see for myself, I knew they had something. I do have a damaged eardrum and I did have motion sickness, but this doesn't trigger it. It's so real. It's so vivid. You're right there in the mix. So doing things like this, you got a focus point and your visuals are so clear in the headset. I know guys have put cameras inside the goggles to try to show you what they're seeing, but the eye tracking does something that the cameras can't emulate. It can't show your pupil, your iris moving around. So the VR headset kind of does not give you the clearest view, even putting a camera right there on the lens. That's what it does. It gives you a different perspective. The field of vision is so much further than what you're seeing right here. They say 110 degrees, but it adds to a different element. You got so much more information coming in. The details that you get in the VR, the smoke, the dirt, the rocks that fly up and things like that. Like that just kicked tons of rocks up in my face for my boy, and that's something that you only see in VR. You get to appreciate the car a lot more, the interior, the A-pillars, the low-slung roof lines, things like that. That's the kind of stuff that other views, bumper or hood view, or even the interior, it didn't always give you the best understanding of the interior of the car. A narrow field of vision and the car sitting really low in the car. Those were certain things that you would get, but you didn't get to appreciate the full freedom looking through that interior. Noticing that the mirrors are really small on this GT car. Noticing that that wiper is super tiny on this GT car. And it's amazing. Some of the tracks open up. Some of the tracks you'll figure out you're going faster at because you can see more of the mystery of the track. It's not just 2D in front of you. You can see through and around, and you get a really good field of view, and notice the depth perception is different. The sense of speed is amazing. Feeling the elements like this rain, all of that stuff is something that definitely changes once you put that headset on. That's the value in what this Gran Turismo PSVR situation gives. Now, at times, I do spend looking at the car at this menu right here. You can look at interior and exterior parts of the car, but it's only a portion. And although it's very well done, you do get an idea of the car. There'd be times I wanted to see if my fitment looked good, but because it only rotates and then changes real quick, you couldn't fully admire what you wanted to see. Except for when you got that VR headset on, you can now go check in different locations. And because we're track guys, you know we had to tap into a pit. And here you go. Now You've got the full-fledged view of the car in the pit, on the track with ambient noises of people racing on the track and background music and pit work being done. Now you get to really look up close. You get to really appreciate those lines. Hell, you even get to really appreciate a livery, whether you did it or you downloaded it. You get to appreciate how well it was done. I have seen these real GT cars in person, and I can tell you they are very tiny. This perspective right here, as I back all the way up to the gate, and that's about the limit that you're able to go in this area. This view right here kind of really shows you how small and tiny and low that this car actually is. You also get to look at it even more and look at all of the aero bits and everything that makes up what this car actually is. You start to really notice, hey, look at that aero element that they actually have on the game. They've got that aero element that sends the air through the rear deck lid and out the back and makes an aero spoiler. It has all of that there. Everything is one-to-one, true to life, and it's really impressive to see it in such high quality. The exterior of the car getting different times of day is really amazing. Like this setting right here, it rolls you through a full 24 hours sped up time frame as far as lighting goes. You get to see the lighting change on all the surfaces, and it looks amazing. It's really impressive because one of the highest key features of Gran Turismo is how well they did the lighting. You getting to experience that on a cycle, on a range, while you're looking at your car, you might see paints in a different way that you've never seen them before because you don't get to see it in that light, in the time of day that is being displayed with that light. Myself personally, I don't spend too much time in this view, but it was super cool to check it out because I really love the way this NSX looks, and although I don't use it a lot, you had to come and appreciate it in this kind of viewpoint, in this situation, because you get to see how much of the car is really the coolest thing that's on the streets. But we never get to see these cars. It's always about McLarens and Lamborghinis and whatever other car YouTubers smitten about. But these NSXs, trust me, if I had real life money, I'd be in one of these NSXs. But in one of these NSXs is actually what the next segment's about. So let's jump in and do some actual driving. And from being right out there into the pits to right out here on the track, you get a whole different perspective of Suzuka and a new appreciation. And the VR, what it gives you as you drop down in these corners, you get so much more information. As a driver, right, when I'm out on track for real, I'm looking as far out as I can. I'm looking at the corner exit. Here, you don't even notice it, but it's so natural. You look out at the exit so much quicker because you can see it all. It's so much more information, so much more field of vision that you have that your body can just automatically do what it naturally needs to do at these speeds. If you have the know-how and you're doing it in real life, it's gonna happen now because the VR gives you that experience. You look in at the apex, out at the shoulder, and then back at the next apex, and now I'm through the tunnel, up the hill at Spoon Corner. As you come through Spoon Corner, when you're looking around this seat, I can see with my eyes. You weren't able to see it, but you notice your exit, so you roll in throttle easier. You visually just accept the task at hand and what you need to do so much easier than before because you can see everything. I'm looking around this corner. I'm looking down the hill at the exit. I'm just at this point of location just because it's a reference from what my visuals have seen. Now it's just natural track placement. It's natural space awareness. Even your peripherals, you're seeing everything in your peripherals. I'm not looking at this apex. I'm looking through down there in my braking zone. The peripherals picked up the apex. That's the difference in driving that you have when you have on the VR. Now what we're gonna do is let's run a comparison. This is how I used to play versus how I play now. Up top is the hood view. That's what I used to drive in. You also see motion blur and the frame per second difference versus the headset and the original 2D gameplay. 2D gameplay didn't give you all that information from the car jumping around and everything. You get that with VR. That's more information you get. As I'm looking up and through the corner, you see the 2D frame, the stuff is coming in the frame and it's coming at you. You can't make out the width of the track. You can't make out certain things like that. In VR, I'm looking through the track. I see the width. It's like the information is coming to me. You see me touching corner, touching apron on the outer, going through this. I'm going through the information, not just accepting information that comes to me. I'm going through a scenery, not just reacting to the scenery as it comes to me. As you notice coming up here, I'm looking up through Spoon Corner already. Now, when I come around this corner, look at the difference between what you see on hood view, that limited visual, versus me looking around the chair, looking over that seat bolster. I saw all the information I needed. The old days, which me being on 2D, I just drove with what was in front of me and off of repetition. Placement and repetition, I should say. Like placement, look at this. Inner apex, outer. Back down to inner, and I'm on throttle going to the outer. And that's a perfect corner, and it just happened because it was so natural. How many of us have lost the race right there where you just barely touched the green and spun the car? But because it's so natural here, even when the car gets out of shape, you just catch it and keep it rocking and glide to your personal space and just drive on the comfort level that you like. It's so much easier to place the car and to get your target when you're looking down and through the image as you naturally would, instead of at the image and making out the information that's coming at you. I really enjoy after I do a track day or something and I go and experience a track, or let's say in this instance a condition that I don't have a ton of experience with. It's not something that I thought was going to happen before I went to the track day, but after I came back from the track day and I'm slipping and sliding through the rain, and me being in NorCal, I don't have a ton of experience with wet track driving conditions because we totally get our track days canceled when it does rain. It just so happens Speed SF kept it cracking. And so I'm going around this track and I'm actually having fun, but I just know I can't push it. I'm not making no personal bests, but I felt like, damn, I want to brush up on my rain. So what you think I did, went ahead and definitely don't have Thunder Hill on Gran Turismo, but I went to a track that simulated certain types of turns that I did experience out there, and I put it on full wet, the wettest condition that I could get, you know, even though my track day wasn't as wet, but that wet condition, it allowed me to get some kind of hands-on experience with what I did deem as the condition that was very similar. And this did, let me tell you, this did feel really, really spot on to what I felt. I'm on 660s. And the car's fairly light, and it actually had good feedback and response in the rain, more than I thought it was going to have. So when I matched the tires, this thing that you get right here with me getting a little counter steer here and there, that's dead ass what I felt as I was driving around on Gran Turismo. This is obviously later in the session where I'm having fun and I'm sliding around and just enjoying the experience of the track, just to push it, see how fast the car can go, where it breaks sideways, things like that. Using that as an experience gauge so that the next time I do hit a wet track day, there's really not much fear to be had because I kind of know what to expect. And this, the view, the visual, the depth perception, the going through the scenery instead of the scenery coming to me, that's what I get here on Gran Turismo. I'm able to line up turns, as you see, looking through them, line them up properly. When it gets a good, nice slide, I'm reacting to it instead of trying to react on top of it. The visual is so good. It's so similar. And it's just something that is a really solid tool, man. You would think I was really trying to drift and slide around on this. I swear to God, I wasn't. I was just trying to get to the limits that I wasn't doing in real life. But when you get to the sliding, man, there's no other than dry surface. So let's just look at this heater here. I really wanted to lay down a full track run, Grand Valley, full speed. I do not hit drift mode. I always just go and bust down in the time attacks and just let it lay where it lay. I'm more or less here just, I don't know, it's just kind of flexing the muscle of, for one, you know, my honed talent on this game, for two, the visuals, for three, the addition of the VR allowing me to see through everything in the way that I've never been able to experience, you know. And look at that, that's such a powerful visual right there, man. The smoke has gotten so good. It's crazy because I've wanted to do a review on Gran Turismo 7 since it's been a whole year now this week since it's been out, but I just never did. I've just enjoyed it. And I knew VR was coming. I was telling my boys all the time, it's got to come. They got to drop VR on the scene. And that was the thing that made me just go for the VR. I told you at first I didn't want to buy it because the VR first version was cool, but it was a lot of things that I didn't like. And then this shit just went over the moon, and it was worth the money, even though it cost the price of a whole new PS5. But what I'm getting as far as being a driving experiences that I'm getting, like, look at that, all of that proximity. This is one run, one take. Obviously, I saved the replay to get the outside car view for y'all, but it's literally just overlaid, and it's one long strip of footage. That's the experience that I wanted out of Gran Turismo. So me shredding this and just having a blast and placing the car in all the right spots, big angle, big phenomenal feeling drifts going on, and it was so cool to do. You know, I'm on a Thrustmaster, so the feedback it's not direct drive strong, but it's definitely really very similar to the rear wheel feel. I get from my cars, and we all know my homeboy got a Mustang, and I've driven the Mustang. It has electronic steering, and sometimes it can be too light, but in sport mode, like the car has a sport mode, this is pretty dead on to what I feel there in the car. And man, look at the placement, look at the visuals. The visual references is just far too cool. But we know, I'm a drift guy as of lately, and I've been doing this shit for like a decade. Well, no, longer than that. Actually, like 15 years straight now. So, specifically with dealing with Gran Turismo, I started drifting on Gran Turismo on GT4. So this right here, and on a wheel, of course. So this right here is just, the culmination of everything I've done. And I don't be trying to be competitive drifter boy, but I just like to have a blast. But drifting's one thing, but enjoying these tracks and finding out how to get fast around these tracks with grip. I use a lot of obscure cars just so that I can enjoy them, enjoy every car that's been put on the platform. A lot of cars people don't use, man, I jump in them and I have fun with them. And the visuals of this bright sunny day makes you really be able to see the tracks super good. And I learn things with all these tracks that I've probably put tons of miles on, but now it's like seeing them for the first time again. And the race experience, man, this shit right here, this is what's become addicting. So I used to do the daily races and try to go for the wins and try to get the highest qualifyings I can. Now, although I do still try to go for the highest qualifying, this right here, what you're seeing in these little compilations that I've got going on, these battles in VR is everything, yo. This has become my new obsession. Not only, having clean races, because at this point, I remember specifically this day right here, the day before, I had 3 terrible races, and I dropped from a skill and a driver's rating A and S, and I was down to a B, C. And I got VR, and I was like, you know what, let me get into the daily driving, the daily races. Let me try to bring my rank up. Having the VR, being able to look at everybody, have the spatial awareness, fit right where I need to fit to get through cleanly, and allow space and not touch. Like, these are clean race bonuses on everything. That has made the experience amazing. So now I feel super competitive. Now, when I don't get up to the front to run and lap on my own, when I'm sitting in the mix of a ton of cars, but everybody's playing nice, like, you'll get those dudes that'll really hit you because they're annoyed that you're driving door to door with them. When you get in these groups that they don't do that and they allow you to drive door to door, like, look at this, I see him, he's braking early, I know he's not going to take the wide line, and I can just run down past him, and I'm okay with doing that because I can see, being able to see it, to know where he's at, to know that he overslowed for the corner, to know that I'm okay making this move. that has freed me up with racing so much more than I was already. You know, I've gotten pretty close on winning some manufacturers cups, gotten the top threes. You know, like playing with this dude, I'm sitting behind him and I look over to the side just to see in front of him. You know, those kind of things, I'm telling you, the value that adds in your racing, those kind of things are nuts. So like I was saying, like being up pretty high in manufacturers cups when I do them, that's great. That's anxiety. These daily races are just fun. You're not worried about nothing. You make the move, he turns down on me, we bump, I let him go. I don't try to make the maneuver. I let him take the spot back, and then I jump in right behind him. But that's, you know, that was just me saying, hey, I know you turned down on me. It's all good. You got it. And then I make the maneuver later. And just because it's fun, you know, he comes back around me. I saw him coming in the mirrors. I saw him coming in the camera. And that was for the final lap. But, you know, it's okay. I enjoyed the battle more than whatever the outcome was. This right here, when Grand Valley first got dropped and they put this race together, man, this was the one that shot me back up to driver rating A, skill rating S. Because it was such a long race, and being able to make so many overtakes. There was one point in time where, because I turned everything off and I was driving the Lexus to get used to the VR, because on the dash on the Lexus it shows your laps, how many laps you've done, things like that. So I have more driver information there, so I take everything off the screen. Now, I did not know what position I was in, but hey, dude, I mean, part of racing is you just drive until there's nobody up front. And so you're getting through all of these cars, you're getting through these corners, you're having a flawless race, you're having a great time. But the overtakes, as they come, you plan them. Because I could plan them, whereas I could see properly, this is what makes it a little bit better. I'm not faster in VR, but I'm able to go as fast as I've ever been able to go, easier. I don't know if that makes sense, right? So I can get my fastest lap times. Instead of it being hard work, it's actually easier now. And it's because of the way that I could see and maneuver the car. It's weird to say that a visual gives you a better feel of driving, but that's exactly what happens. I'm no longer stressed if I'm coming up on this corner and I'm like, oh, if we're 3 wide. I don't necessarily care if we're 3 wide. I'm able to see my way through it. This Porsche hits me, and I was able to control it and not run into the guys in front of me while sideways because I could see. It didn't pitch the screen around because I'm in a fixed camera view. You know, this guy right here, you're about to see, we're running through this segment and then he hits the brakes. I don't hit him. That's not impact. There was no collision there. I was able to hit the brakes and stay right behind him and then be close enough to make this move happen. So those are the things that it shot my ratings up, and it shot them up really quickly. And it's only because now I can do so much closer racing and I can back off quicker and get back on throttle more effectively because I can kind of see how it's going to go. And I kind of see where they're going to go. You'll notice here as I'm chasing this Porsche into it getting darker, there's going to be a maneuver that I make on this guy that I knew I was sitting behind him a couple of laps and I'm letting him take me around all these guys that are in front of us. We eventually get by, but I just follow him through them. I wasn't making any aggressive moves. By this time, I think we had done 2 or 3 races, so I knew by the time it started to get nighttime, I had to bust moves. And this Mercedes tried to throw a little wrench in the mix, but just because it's like, hey, bud, get out the way. But I could see him in the mirror. I could see him do his thing. And I'm just following this tiger-colored Porsche all the way through Grand Valley and having a good time doing it. So here this Mercedes comes and he's really still trying to get in the mix. He's trying to force his way down the inside. I give him space. I let him go because it's not a big deal. I still had the inside on this corner. You don't get the stress. You don't get the anxiety no more. You can close them back out. You can do whatever you want to do because now you're playing in a full multi-dimensional world. It's not just 2D. You just play around with the play around. And this dude behind me, he actually got himself in some good trouble. And I don't mean trouble like with stewards or nothing, but literally, I give him space. He runs around. He's doing his thing. As long as I kept the Porsche in the range I wanted, I was fine. Because he cut through there and slowed down. It ends up giving him a penalty, which is wild funny to me. So I didn't know that, because what you're seeing is exactly what I see. I don't know he has a penalty. I'm just racing. And remember what I said, my focus was the Porsche. So this guy getting in the mix, I knew I had a draft off of him, which would run me right back to the back of that Porsche. And this is where I decided to make an attack, but it's funny, he has to end up serving a penalty. But he also spins too, so that was funny as shit. As he goes by the wayside, I'm like, oh well, back up on the Porsche, you know? And that's the way, that's the arena that you get to play in. You get to play in such a dimension that it's allowing you to be comfortable. So whatever my fastest pace is around whatever track, now I can hit it so comfortably I don't really have to worry too much about making the fast times happen. I don't even worry about tire wear, because now all of your senses are tapped in and plugged in. The way you visually see yourself moving around the track and the way the steering wheel feels, you know when your tires are running bad. And you adjust and you make it happen. I did 12 or 15 laps on a certain tire wear, and when I brought it into the pits, I had like a sliver of tire left on the gauge. And here's this overtake. I'm about to make this overtake real clean, as y'all see as I'm telling the story. But the car still had a good feel to it, so I knew I no longer had to worry about how the tires felt. It's really about the drive, how the drive feels. As this guy's flashing me for whatever reason, I don't know if he was on the control or what, but you know, you just move around and outrun guys. And before I knew it, this was first place. I didn't even know this was first place. I was actually planning on running him down right after this, but I didn't know it was the last lap. And driving in VR with everything off, it allows you to just focus on each person in front of you, each corner ahead of you. That's the only progress that you're looking at. You don't look at progress of lap time. You don't look at progress of position. I look up here and I see the dude waving the flag top right, and I'm like, oh wait, that was the last lap, and that was over with. So this one too was the same thing. We had some guys, he hit me and ran me off the track. Typically that's an abort mission and you restart, but for some reason I stuck with it. And I went from last place to running past fourth and fifth and third and second, and eventually I almost caught first, but obviously we ran out of time. But as you see how I'm darting back around these dudes, I just have space to play, and because I have space to play, I make smarter maneuvers. This Supra, he got ran down on. Of course, this is all BOP and tuning prohibited. As I catch the Supra, he brakes, and I take him on the outside because I can clearly see the width that I have to play with. He hits me, I touch a little dab of the brakes just to keep it stable, but man, that's it. Again, I'm gonna turn you on the outside. You can't stop it because I could see it. And you get to play in all these areas. This, again, Grand Valley, diving in on the Lambo, kind of got on the throttle a little too quick, but these are all showing displays of clear maneuvers that are made because I see I have the space. I see I can take the position. I see that I can maneuver through there without hitting them. This shit was so sick right here. I flashed dude just to let him know I'm coming. Run down his outside, and he darts on me. It's like he tried to make collision, but hey, I could see. I saw your movement happen. I go around you. There's nothing he could do. It was over with. Another one. This dude up front, we both had the RCFs, and trust me, he was faster than me. He was a lot faster than me. But it was like, let's say his fastest lap time was a 2:18 around here. Let's just say I was doing a 2:19.5. But as he's sitting in front of me, obviously I can run the same race pace with him. And I could even slide by him whenever I felt like it. And I would just show him. This is just showing of dominance. That's all I'm doing. I wasn't trying to make the pass. I was just trying to fluster him for the moment. So I sit right behind him. I mean, what kind of a brain game is that you're playing? You could sit right behind a guy and then run around the outside of him just to show you I'm here, just to show you I can do it, just to show you I'm thinking about it. Then I fall right back in line behind you, and And no matter what kind of stuff you're trying to put out, your best stuff, I'm sitting right here. Then again, it's just a brain game, show of dominance. I'm in his mirrors. I'm on your sonar. I'm right behind you. And every time I feel like it, I poke my nose out just to make an attempt. Now, to me, that's racing. Look at that. Bong. That's racing to me. You know, I don't want the dirty pass. I don't want to bump you. I want to work for it. And I want to make the clean pass. And once the pass is made and the overtake is had and I check out, man, it's a good feeling.
If that's a real star constellation, I'm going to throw a fit. You see this over to the right as we're going down the back straightaway? Is that the Big Dipper? That's the Big Dipper. A Big Dipper's on the left going down the hill.
And that was just a hilarious moment of me realizing the realism that Kazunori and the production team put into the game. But back to these battles, the conversations always had who's faster, VR or non-VR guys. This here is just part of the mix where it's not about you actually being fast. It's about your access to unlocking race pace. How quickly or how comfortable can you be with going quick? When you're in these races, everybody qualifies high. So this is a room full of A and A plus drivers. We were grouped in like 500ths of a second. So it's really not about the fastest because guys all qualify around the same clip. It's just who races better. The visual to see things that's about to happen, like knowing the space I have and then seeing this guy do this maneuver right here coming up. We're in the brake zone. This is a very technical braking area. And see them get in the mix. I don't hit them, but I saw it happening, which kept me from crashing into him, which kept him from crashing into the Mustang or vice versa. But I could stay in the mix and stay right up his inside and know that he's about to go wide and I'm going to go tighter and I'm going to capitalize on the position. Knowing that I can do these kinds of things. It's just the access to being fast. It's like I've got a better modem. I've got a better connection. It's that kind of thing. I've got a better connection and access to speed. Again, the Mustang, I used him. I wanted to use him to tow us up front. The Mustangs are pretty good if you can drive them fast on straightaways. So I could have went for the pass, and it's not sandbagging or anything. I would have went around him and he would have came right back around me, which would have turned into a battle. Racing is using your brain. I don't have to make that pass. Let me sit here and make him run, see if he can run faster, and I just follow him right up to the front, you know. Those kind of things are what makes good races happen, which makes you feel great about whatever position that you get, whatever position you take. I flash him to let him know that I'm going to pass you now. That flash gave him anxiety because he did this and I just did that. And just because I was like, hey, I see what you just did here and you fucked up and now I'm by you. Now, what I did here was I purposely went wide, I stayed wide, and I braked way late. He followed me out there. It was his mistake. He tried to turn in tight, and I ran down across his nose, which blocks him and outruns him. It gave me the space, and I checked out, and that was it.
Let's burn a hot lap, a fast lap per se. Oh, this is so fucking good. This is so damn good. The sense of speed is phenomenal. This is phenomenal. Look at the lighting in the high pit. The difference is crazy. See, what the VR set does is not only gives you the clearest VR, but I can clearly see the tree's depth behind the next tree. I could see everything so much better. It's so much more realistic. The PSVR original had that screen door effect that you look like you were looking through a mesh or something of that nature. This does not. This is like clear and smooth, just how your eyes should naturally see it. But this is the coolest thing. Like, Gran Turismo was already fucking sick, but they just added so much more to it.
And that battle is just as good as this solo lap time.
Damn, oh man.
Like, getting reacquainted with tracks, seeing them again for the first time, as I said before, you find different things that you like about the track now. You might have favorite segments prior to, but now you're going to get a new favorite segment. You're going to drive cars on tracks that you didn't drive before. Those are the combinations that really makes this game endless, which gives it a long shelf time, because me personally, I've been doing Gran Turismo series since the very first one came out. And I've been doing them on the steering wheel since Gran Turismo 2.
So crazy.
Having that much drive time, simulator time I should say, and especially the guys that try to say that this is just simcade and things like that. I've personally put Assetto Corsa up with Gran Turismo, tire wear, engine damage, things like that. They're all relatively pretty similar. The only thing that I've found on Gran Turismo is that their tires somehow are always ready to rock and roll within about a lap or so. And if you do have the app, you can get tire wear, temperature, and air pressure. So it does have that kind of plug-in. So it is technically all the sim that you need.
Ooh, this is crazy.
You simulate the visual, you simulate the driving experience, you simulate the physical act of driving, and it's very good. It's very, very good. I myself have gone back to a lot of cars that I once had love for and kind of fell out of love with.
Held the brakes a little too long.
I'm driving them again. I'm retuning them again. I do the human comedies now. I didn't do them before, but now I'm doing them. I'm running myself through different combinations of tracks and cars. Like R32s, I don't drive too much. I don't drive R34s at all. I might have 30 or 40 laps on one R34. But now you jump in them and you want to drive them around Bathurst and see if Godzilla lives up to the height, lives up to the experience, at least I should say. These are the things that make you want to enjoy the game for countless days and shoot, a couple more decades, right? Running the GT3 Viper has lately, because it's a tough car to drive. I was using this car in the Manufacturer's Cup, and I kind of have not driven it since the Manufacturer's Cup participation. So when I jump back in it, I'm glad that it still acts the same. I'm glad the experience is still the same. It's still the most brutal sledgehammer in the toolbox. And I get to sit back and know that I can run people down, but I just let people do this kind of stuff and they fall by the wayside, and then I watch these two guys battle for outrageous reasons, and I sit back and let him go for it, go pay him back. Y'all both out my way, and I just pass on by because the Viper has the power. Seeing as though this channel is more about the experience than anything, I'm glad I took the time to gain the experience from this situation for over a year. Gran Turismo's been out for about a year now, and I'm really glad that I waited until the VR came about, because I was always telling my boys it was coming, and this was the plug-in, the experience. This was the portion of game that I've always wanted from a home console. Being able to experience it and then give you guys like a detailed understanding of like my thought processes and what I'm doing on this game. Because even though it's technically a game, even simulators are like games to me, but being able to get the experiences from them, that's the high point of what this offers. Having it in my house, just walking right to my damn game room and drive an RX-8 replica. Like, I have my same cars sitting out front that I use on the games, and then I go and try to experience or simulate the real world conditions and or my real world setups. Like, you see this RX-8 is on 17s. It's on 17s because it is a wide body and it has big wide tires, and this game actually simulates you hitting hard parts, frame and wheel wells. So if you slam the car really low, and this is a grip car, right? Slam really low, it gets a heavy G load. You start to impede your steering because it's hitting the frame, it's stopping the wheel. You notice it in the steering wheel, but that's really the only place that you'll notice it aside from it handling weird. And you can only see that inside the interiors. Those are some really cool key points and features. Plus they have like aero wash and all kinds of things that are like really technical that only racer dudes would really key into. But it's fun and entertaining and looks cool enough that people that do just mindless gameplay have a great time on this. So the addition of VR, everything is great. That's going to ensure me having some longevity on this, and the updates to come, they're frequent enough that it's always something new. So I'm gonna leave y'all with that. I've enjoyed this, and I'm gonna give y'all 2 fingers and I'm out.